Hey guys, what's up? It's Eric and Ryan from Tower Reviews, and today we're going to be telling you our first impressions on the new iPad mini. So in front of you see the brand new iPad mini release date is today, the 2nd of November. We have the 32GB white model in front of you, middle of the road for the non-cellular model. So it comes in at a price tag of 430 big ones without tax. But we're just going to be telling you like what we think so far of the device, and with some light use, how we think it's going to hold up for daily use, obviously. So when you power the device on, it obviously looks like any other iPad, just a little bit of a smaller display. On the left side, you're going to see there's nothing. On the right side, you're going to see the volume rocker and the toggle for either the rotation lock or mute button. You can change that in the software settings. On the bottom, you have lightning connector. Oh yeah. And you have stereo speakers, which are pretty good so far. I've only listened to them a few times, but they seem pretty good. On the top, you have your microphone and your headphone jack, as well as your lock button, which has some very nice tactile feedback. It's a very nice lock button. I'm happy to report that. All the buttons have seemed pretty well built so far. On the back, you have the 5-megapixel iSight camera. On the front, you have high definition front-facing camera, 720p, and the home button. Obviously, a pretty nice 7.9-inch display. Comes with the same amount of pixels that's in the iPad 2, which would say, hey, the iPad 2's not that great of a display. But what you're missing is that it's the same amount of pixels in a smaller screen density, or a smaller screen, so it makes the pixel density higher. But
however, it's still not the best quality in the world. From the average distance that you would use it at, you're not going to be able to really distinguish the pixels, but if you look up close, you will be able to distinguish them. And if we compare it to something like the Nexus 7, which I do have right here, you'll notice that this is actually an HD display, and it's much harder to distinguish pixels, but really not a big difference. If you're considering the price point, it might become more of a big difference. You also have a 16:9 aspect ratio on the Nexus 7 here, and you do not have the 16:9 here, so you can tell that it's definitely significantly wider, which I personally like for everyday use. But when you consider the fact that when you watch videos, you're going to be getting letterboxing up at the top and the bottom, it becomes more of a problem. But again, having the same resolution as the iPad 2, all the apps still work, so we only have a couple downloaded so far, but if we just go into Subway Surfer here, you'll see that it's completely optimized already. You don't have to worry about any of that letterboxing, which has been a pretty big problem on the iPhone. But so you're not going to have that problem here. So there you can kind of hear the speaker. It's sufficiently loud. So far everything's working out pretty well with the iPad. Just a few minor problems. We got some factory scratching. It's kind of hard to see, but
it's kind of like I don't know. You can see it in the correct light, considering like it's the aluminum back. It's almost like a piece of machinery was just scuffed against it when it was being packaged or something. It's really no big deal considering it's on the back, and you can expect that type of flaws, even though it is kind of disappointing.
But from a dimension standpoint, it's extremely thin. When I first picked it up in the Apple Store, before we even decided we were going to purchase it, we immediately noticed that it was very light, and it's definitely aimed to be a one-handed device, as we've probably been holding it with one hand throughout this review and haven't even been conscious of it. Just fits in your hand that way, and it feels really nice, almost like a book.
Yeah, so just to kind of show how it is such a nice display, I'm going to quickly show you just what the keyboard looks like in the landscape display.
Which also, that brings up another point, that it is so easy to use the keyboard. You don't have to stretch your thumbs at all, whereas people with average size hands on the regular iPad would have to.
I have rather large thumbs, but as you can see, I can cross my thumbs in front of the screen, which means I can easily type every single button. When you go this way, you can get a nice landscape display, but you can use it like that, obviously, if you want to just use when you're holding it, or you can put it down like the original iPad, or you can put the smart case on it. Once you put that on, you can prop it up, and you still get that pretty large keyboard that you can actually type on. You can type with two hands like a regular keyboard on the iPad 2 or iPad 3 or Retina or new iPad.
Oh, I would consider it more similar to the large iPad than to the iPod Touch. I've heard some people saying that it's more similar to a large iPod Touch, but all the features that the iPad has that separated it from the iPod Touch transfer over to this device. So you still have all the gestures, you still have the landscape rotation, you still have photo booth, you still have all the apps that you normally wouldn't get with a smaller device like an iPhone or an iPod Touch. So that brings us to the camera. Obviously you have a pretty improved camera when you compare it to the iPad 2. I haven't had much experience, as this is just a first impressions video, and we'll talk more about this in our review, but from what I can see, definitely higher quality rear facing, and the main thing is the front facing, whereas you used to have such bad cameras on the front of Apple devices. They're finally starting to improve them, which is definitely a step in the right direction in my opinion.
I just wanted to quickly touch on battery life. I charged it up to about 90%. It came with about 80. I charged up to about 90, and so in about 2 hours of use, maybe about an hour and a half of pretty heavy use with brightness about halfway up, we're only looking about a 13% drop on the battery life. So it's looking like some pretty good battery life.
Yeah, battery life has always been pretty good on iPads, and I would expect it to carry over as you're taking a less of a draw with the smaller screen from the battery. So overall, first impressions are pretty positive. Some things are lacking in the display category, and I would have liked to see a bit of a smaller price point, but definitely positive. You're going to get that Apple ecosystem, obviously, that you get with every other product that a lot of people can't compete with at the time being. Thanks for watching.